And Then I Danced, the episode of the Island Treasures podcast, Caregiver Stories, that features Toni Gitles. Toni Gitles had a 14-year caregiving journey as she looked after her mom. Toni then became a certified caregiver consultant, an educator, a facilitator, a speaker, a writer, and CEO of Caregiver Empowerment. Don't you just love that?
I never, ever figured that it would be a 14-year journey. It was both aggravating and frustrating a journey, but I told people it was like the worst job I ever had in my life at the very beginning until I figured things out. And then it really became, for most of the time, the best experience. I called it the best job I ever had. But there was a learning curve.
And today we're just going to highlight some of the pieces that were part of the interview through video clips. And I will speak about what was in each clip, and hopefully you will find it informative. Now, even if you're not a caregiver, I find that the information Toni shares is applicable. Just remember though, many of us may become caregivers, and it's best to be prepared for that journey. So I do hope you stay tuned and watch these vignettes. Toni's mom had several health crises during the 14-year journey.
Allison, she had 2 other incidents in the hospital where she almost died, and she didn't. So she lived to be 100.
Wow.
Yeah. She just hung on. She said, I'm not done with you. I want to be with you.
Toni, you must be one amazing daughter for her to have that commitment and conviction to stick around.
Well,
often Toni was led to believe by the doctors or the staff that mom wouldn't pull through, or that she wouldn't be the same if she did make it through each crisis. Toni honestly said, how much longer? Because mom did keep pulling through. And when you're a caregiver, what you're going through seems endless. You are exhausted. Each day you finish up the day, you go to bed, and you know that tomorrow it's going to be the same thing. How do you make it through? Toni had talked about needing someone to come alongside her and just help her with her emotions and help her just to know what to expect and give her support. Okay, so your mom is going to stick around for you don't know how long. So make memories, make it good for both of you, and see how Toni did that.
We were so busy creating memories.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And finding activities we could do together. We were in the emergency room one morning. I got a call from the assisted living that mom had a facial paralysis. And I'm familiar with that because of my background in healthcare. Right. So I knew it wasn't life-threatening, but we needed to go to the emergency room. So I always have a bag, an emergency room bag that I take with me.
Prepared.
I am prepared, and it's a good idea. Not only has her medical history and medication and insurance information, but it has stuff for me, like drinks and a notebook and pens, my phone, that kind of thing. So we were in the emergency room, and we knew it was going to be a long wait. And mom had almost died before, and she asked me, am I going to die this time? And I said, Mom, you are not going to die this time. You're going to have a recovery period, but you're not going to die. And about 15 seconds later, I said to her, look, if you were going to die, what's a story you want me to tell people about your life? And she did not hesitate. She said, I want to tell you how I met my Prince Charming. Oh. My dad. And I'm like getting my notebook out and I wrote down every word she told me. And she just went on and on telling the story. and it was delightful.
What a great tip. Have a bag ready for those emergencies. You know they're going to happen. And instead of having to scurry around to make sure that you've got all the medical information you need, the insurance papers, the allergies, the medications, have all of that in one place. Have it packed in a bag that you can just grab when you need to go to the emergency room with your loved one. And include in that bag things for yourself, refreshments, a notebook, a pen, your phone, and it might even help to pack some creativity.
It's a process.
Well, and it's a journey that nobody prepares for, because nobody knows what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And you could think, well, yeah, I'll start preparing for being a caregiver maybe in 10 years, maybe when mom and dad are old, you just don't think of that.
Yeah. And I didn't even, as far as the word caregiver, I didn't even identify when I started taking, I was mom's daughter, taking care of my loving mom. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't even think to investigate resources for caregivers, and that's what I tell people now. We're all caregivers, mm-hmm. or will be at some point.
Exactly.
And to identify yourself gives you access to, it makes you curious. It makes you see what's out there and to learn from other people.
What you call yourself when you're looking after your loved one can make a difference. Like Toni, you might think that you're a loving daughter, a loving son, looking after mom, looking after dad, responding to their phone calls in the middle of the night, taking them to doctor's appointments. Or you might be a neighbor who pops in and checks on your neighbor, runs to the grocery store for them, takes them to a doctor's appointment, picks up prescriptions for them. So you might just think you're a friend, a neighbor, or a loving child. But you're embarking on a caregiving role. So it's really advantageous to call yourself a caregiver. Calling yourself a caregiver is like a key that unlocks a locked door to a storehouse full of resources. You may not know that these resources are there until you call yourself a caregiver. And as Toni found out, calling herself a caregiver helped her gain access to a myriad of resources.
I'll tell you, that was the biggest lesson I learned after mom died. I kept thinking, what did I learn from the experience? What are my memories? What do I do now? And the biggest question was, what was missing from my journey? And it was, you could call it a consultant, a mentor, somebody that had been through a caregiving experience who I could talk to and get suggestions or just vent. And I didn't want to put that on my friends, although I did a little, but I didn't know if they'd been through a caregiving experience or not. I found out later so many of my friends had been through a caregiving experience, but they never talked about it. Mm-hmm. Even while I was taking care of my mom, and they knew both me and my mom. Mm-hmm. So we need to talk about it. We need to get information out to people and make it safe.
Yeah. After Toni's mom passed away, Toni looked back and figured out what was missing in her caregiving journey. She identified two major things. When she asked what was missing, it was a mentor or a caregiver consultant. She also found that open dialogue about caregiving experiences was missing. Unbeknownst to her, many of her friends had had caregiving experiences, and Toni was longing for someone that could relate to her and what she was going through as a caregiver. But they didn't talk about it, so she didn't know. So the big takeaway here is we need to talk about it. It needs to be safe to talk about your caregiving experiences, to be able to vent, to be able to express your emotions, and to hear other people's insights or suggestions. You have a spreadsheet, or you had a spreadsheet of all of your mom's medications, and you had a notebook, and I'd like you to share more about that, as talk about being prepared. I think that was one of the best suggestions I've heard.
Oh, great. I'd love to share that. I don't know why I knew to do that. I just like to be organized and I like to be prepared. And again, it could have been because of my healthcare background, but imagine going to the hospital in an emergency and with your mother, and you don't know her medications, you don't know her medical history, her allergies, her insurance. How helpful can you be? You want to be helpful, but there are life-threatening situations. And I think what actually started a lot of it was every time we'd go to the doctor, a new doctor, we had to fill out a history form. And I said, you know what? I'm putting this on a Word document. We're not going to do this over and over and over again.
Great idea.
So one of the things I did was start a Word document, and we went back to her early days. She had a kidney abscess, she had a mastoidectomy, a hysterectomy. We went back to the 1930s. She was born in 1917, whatever she could think of, because it wasn't written down. And I put dates along with things the best I could. And then every diagnosis that she got, I wrote that down because that's important information.
The thought of creating a spreadsheet may be daunting, but it would be such an effective tool to have with you. You would just enter in doctor's appointments, new diagnoses, new medications when they started, outcomes of doctor's appointments. It would be so easy once you got it set up to keep it as a resource of your loved one's medical developments. The other tip that Toni shared is the Word document of the medical history. How many times have we gone to a new doctor or a specialist and been asked for our medical history? Sometimes we can't remember all the details. The older we get, there are more details to remember. Wouldn't it have been so much simpler to just whip out this document that's got everything on it that you could just ask them to put on your medical chart? The piece we have to remember here is to keep it current, though. Anytime anything changes, we just need to keep that document current. So if you are entrenched in a caregiving journey right now, I invite you to reach out to either Toni or myself. Toni's website is mycaregiverconsultant.com, and my website is alongsidecaregiverconsulting.ca. Certified caregiver consultants, facilitators, and educators are here to help you. We can come alongside and help you through your caregiving journey. I realize how difficult it can be to ask for help. And it can also be difficult to accept help when it's offered. But you are a caregiver. You've identified now as a caregiver. You are resilient, you're strong, you're resourceful. Accept the help that's there, that's out there. I also recognize how valuable your time is as a caregiver. So I really thank you for watching today. I hope that you found something really helpful in these clips or in the whole podcast. If you've got a moment and you can let me know what you found helpful, that would be great. I'd love to hear from you. If you liked the format of this presentation, please let me know. If you didn't, please let me know and I can change it for next time. But thank you so much for your time today. I hope that the rest of your day is good. Take care and thank you.